Hello, everybody. Just had to. What's the clock? There we go. I had to get that clock. I didn't have to, but Marilyn was on a Zoom call last night. From 5:30 to 7 every Thursday, I think, or maybe one Thursday every month, once a month. So she flipped around that little guy right there. It says 819. Let's pull this down. There we go. It's on screensaver mode, so that clock moves around a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Notice we have our new modern, no black lines around. Remember that I showed you yesterday? Let's do it. I'll show you. We hit the crop split again. Bingo. There you go. So now we have black lines, black borders, if you will, around both views. There you can see where the border picks up right there. Yeah. We hit crop split again. There we go. It makes it jumbo mode. Yeah, I like that better. So those of you that are interested in watching me, whoops, see my coffee mug right there with the pink. We were up in Annapolis, would you believe? Look at that right there. Chop tank. If you're in Annapolis, you need to go on the water, or near the water. You can drive, or you can boat over. If you have a good marine map and you know what the heck you're doing with a boat. Chop tank, named after the Chop Tank Indians. Chop tank. We had a seafood festival celebrating my birthday. I love birthdays. Because the alternative is a whole lot worse. Yeah, you want to keep having them birthdays. Yes, you do. All right, let's cut this energy down a little bit. There we go. Make this the sunlight. We just passed the equinox, first day of spring. What does equinox mean? Nox. It's a Latin thingy. Remember, English is a Romance language. Derived from Latin. It's kind of hard to believe if you've ever heard Latin. Ooh, yeah. The ancient clergy spoke in Latin. Now I think they speak more Italian than Latin. Because who the heck can understand Latin? Except for more clergy. And my mother, of course. Being fluent in Latin. Go figure, huh? Fluent in Latin? Really? Oh boy. Yeah, she was. So, I was properly corrected for my youthful indiscretions of speaking improperly. A couple of words I remember that she basically came after me with is I used to say, if you have one person that's in front and the other person is behind, the person in front, you could say, is in head of the other. Somehow or other, in head instead of ahead. I mean, it took me years to get out of the habit of saying in head. Like, I shot you in the head. I don't know why I kept on saying in head. Anyway, so that was James? Ahead, not in head. She would bark at me from all points. Yeah. So, okay, Marilyn has on my watch. I can see that, which you probably can't see, but there's a green line down there, and it looks like she has about an 80% fuel tank. I can touch it, and there's a picture of my car. Look at that. Can you believe it? Right through the watch. Nuts. 202 miles of range. It's on that battery. Yep. And then I have another. I can touch that. And what do we got here? My iPhone has 100% battery. My Apple Watch is at 45%. Okay. So, since I'm immobilized here, talking to you all, I'll put it on the charger. I have a super fast charger, which means it takes, about probably 20 minutes to fill it up. So since I'm sitting, I'm right here, by the way. Oh, just out of view. Yeah, that's the one bad thing about having this kind of a view. Yes, sir. Wow. I'm trying to get, I have a whole I carried a pocket full of constitutions with me. And I handed both grandsons a constitution. There it is, in living color. Yeah, just stick it in there. Doesn't seem to want to stay up there very well. There we go. I guess we'll move this guy over here. Out of sight, out of mind, something like that. We're up over here. Yeah. There's my logo. There's my constitution. Got a little pen here. My water balance went up over this past weekend. And look at that band. What a beauty. Tell you what, Apple, these people know how to make some really attractive stuff. I think if I go with the Apple Watch Series 11, I think I'm on 10. I think I might go to the Ultra again. It has more displays. Yeah, the displays are better. I don't know why. The display on this is supposed to be the same size as the Ultra. Same number of pixels across, up and down. But yet when you try to, there used to be a display where you could have the day and date up here. You could have a couple things up here and 3 different things down here. Can't find it. There's no such display with this watch. And I used to put my blood pressure, not pressure, what do you call it, my pulse. So I'd have a pulse over there, and I would, then I'd have,
it's 8:30.
All the way on the other end would be the amount of battery in the watch. And then the middle one, like 3 circles. The middle one I would have the car battery. So 3 different displays right on the bottom there. Circular displays. I can't do it with this watch. Maybe when they release the new software for the Apple Watch 11, they'll have. I'm more interested in upgrading the phone than I am the watch. I can sit with the watch until, January of next year, 2026. But I think we're going to upgrade the phones. We're on the annual upgrade plan with AT&T. So, in which they take the price of the phone and they divide it by 36. And that is your monthly installment for acquiring the phone. Now you can sit with the phone for 3 years and pay it off, and then you don't have a. But why? Whoops. Why pay for? Why write a check for the entire phone when you can write a check for 1/36 of the phone? No interest charge. I mean, that would be the reason if they were charging you interest. No interest. No interest, no fees. You have to pay the sales tax on the watch. They don't install that because the state of Florida, they want their tax paid when you buy something that's taxable. Groceries are not taxable, just so you know. But everything else is. Probably not. There's probably a few more exceptions that I don't recall. So in Orlando, there's the tower in Orlando. That baby goes, oh. Now the air traffic controllers are up here in the very top. And that brown thing with the antennas sticking up. This down here with the draperies, you see some windows are. That's probably like offices for the senior traffic control supervisory staff. I am absolutely making that up. I have no idea. Anyway, but there was a 7, as you can see from the story, if you were so inclined to read, I'll do a little reverse pinch in case your screen need a little help with your display. The pilots of a Boeing 737 started to take off from a taxiway on the is a Southwest Airlines flight 3278 was cleared for takeoff. But unfortunately, they were lined up with a taxiway, which is kind of like a side street to the runway. Runs up and down the length of the runway with some access points so that when you're landing or you abort a takeoff, you can hurry up off the runway, because the air traffic controllers doesn't want anything on the runway unless you're taking off or landing officially. So since flight 3278, folks, would you please put your tray tables up and your seat backs. The seat backs and the tray tables up, please, in the up position. Thank you. Fasten your seat belts. We're about to take off. Well, maybe not. And they actually started the takeoff, and they had to, abort their takeoff because the air traffic controller said, "Hey, dummy, you're on the taxiway. You are no longer cleared for takeoff. Get the hell out of here." So they had to bring the plane back. They had to give, everyone had to deplane and get on another Southwest Airlines piece of equipment because the pilot and the co-pilot had to file reports with the FAA as to why they decided to take off on the taxiway instead of the runway. Now, a 737 jet, which we just did a round trip with a 737 jet. It was a 737-800. They have a 900, which is a longer one. Adds another 40 seats or something. That's a guess. So the fuselage is elongated to accommodate more passengers. Same engines, same every damn thing. Just a longer body to accommodate more passengers. It's slightly heavier, so it's going to use a little more fuel. And of course, it would be heavier if they had 40 more passengers. But if they didn't have 40 more passengers, the plane, as is empty, or half empty, or half full, would use more full fuel because the aircraft is heavier with the longer fuselage, which is that long polished aluminum cylinder onto which the wings are attached with pylons. Do they use titanium? I don't know. It's hard to tell what they would use, to attach all this stuff. Titanium is lighter than steel and 3 times stronger than steel. So that would be a good material. Do you realize the United States is trying to, pardon the expression, solidify the mineral rights deal with Ukraine? And one of the things, for some reason or other, buried deep beneath the crust of Ukraine is titanium ore. Titanium is a metal on the periodic table. Titanium. I love it that I've I've taken this Ecamm Live and I've plugged in an iMapad into the port that feeds into the video side of this software. I should write them a letter and say, you know what? Look what Jimmy's doing. Yeah, I got a dual display, not of since, the three of us that are putting on this production. Yeah, me, myself, and I. Yeah, I'm the talent in quotation marks. And then you got me and myself, the producers and the director. So we got me, myself, and I running the show here. And in my ultimate wisdom, I decided to use one of these high-quality data lines. This is, it has a bigger plug. It has a special chip situation in the plug, which you can. I'm going to try to show you. It's a little crowded here. See that plug? Yeah. Now if I show you, sorry, you gotta talk. See, now here's a typical Apple. I don't like to use aftermarket equipment because there's copyrights on the chips. There are actually chips inside these plugs to, based on the shielding and, the things about the wire. So, the wire is like twice as thick, if you can see. Of course you can't. And the plug, see the difference in the size of the white part? Let's turn it around a little bit. Move my microphone stuff around. You see? And this has a little lightning bolt on there. To give you an idea, it's a special wire. This stupid wire costs $100. This wire costs $19.95. Don't be, yes. It handles data, but not as fast. So the chip technology that's in the plug controls the speed of the data communication. I don't think it has anything to do with the spectrum, but the wire itself is braided differently. It's a thicker wire. How does it compare with the diameter of a pen? And there's the diameter of a pen. It's it's a pretty big fat wire. Anyway, that goes around there and it comes back in here. And it's plugged right in to the high-speed data port of my MacBook Air. So I get maximum resolution coming from the iMapad. Like the shoulder pads. I got my iMapad right here. Yes, sir, Bob. And I got my heel. I think it's a PR40 microphone. Let's take a look here. And we'll take a look here. What's going on here? I sent, I got a set of headphones, Sony headphones from Amazon. And I take them out of the case and they're like disintegrated. I said, hey, come on guys. That's not fair. Yeah, no. Send it back. Alright, let's reload that and see. Delivery date provided as soon as possible. Well, what the hell are you waiting for? It's 8:43 a.m. It was in Memphis, Tennessee. Then it was on its way to the location. And now it's back in Memphis, Tennessee yesterday afternoon at 3 p.m. So it's just sitting there for an extra day. Yeah, wouldn't you know? Alright, well, can't do anything about that. Go back to Amazoni. Yep, let's go back right here. My orders. Send one of these guys back too. How we doing there? Refund started. Bullshit. Whoops, sorry. Sorry for that. Yeah. One of these had a rattle in it, so I sent it. Back you go. We don't accept anything with a rattle. Okay. This thing got oh yeah, that got delayed. Let's try the headphones. This is the one that were broken. You know, you buy a brand new set of headphones and they're broken in the box. They're broken. So hey, that either happened in the Sony warehouse or it happened in the what do you call it? Received. Refund has not been issued yet. So they're contemplating their navel. They need some supervisory assistance on that. What are we going to do with these things? I know what I do. I give the client the refund and send the suckers back to the factory. Why the hell should Amazon or Jimmy suffer the fact that the headphones, they broke off right at this, where the cup meets the head thing that goes over the top of your head. Excuse me while I take a sip of my not so hot coffee. That's probably 120 degrees. I happen to have my trusty thermometer right here. I don't know why I have it in here, but I do. Let's take a picture of it. Yeah. Oh, 141 degrees, really? There you go, 141.1. It's amazing. If you look inside there, see that on the top is a light emitting diode, which you're not supposed to flash it at the camera. All right. So the coffee is 141. If it gets to 150, it's too hot. Just so you know, you would feel like it's burning your mouth. That goes up 9 degrees. You have to sip it very carefully. There you go. My watch is about 90% full. It was 45% full. That's a good thing. These Democrats are a pain in the neck. So now, AOC and Bernie Sanders are starting a anti-Trump tour. Now, you know, more than half of the American people voted for Trump. That's why he won over Kamala. Yeah. And that other guy that jumps around the stadium like he's, like he's jumping on hot coals. Bernie Sanders is a million years old, and AOC is a big mouth from Brooklyn. But she's out working, she's, the media loves her because she's got a, outspoken, yeah. So these political candidates are so agitated with each other. You've heard about this judge, right? That's trying to interfere with the people that are being deported. If you're on a visa, you have to behave, okay? And if you don't behave, you're out of here. Try it in Germany. Try it in France. Try not behaving. In other words, pushing up against the rules, laws of foreign countries in Europe. Then yank your butt out of there. And if you don't go, they'll throw you in the hooskow. Forget about you for a week or two. You're the one that you're on a visa and you're misbehaving. Oh yeah, okay. 3 weeks later, you can get out of jail. Buy yourself a ticket and get out. I don't care where you go. Here's your passport. We'll give you the passport on your way into the flight. So, get yourself an airline ticket. We're not paying. You're on your own, buddy. Just get your butt on an airplane. Drive yourself in a car. I don't care how you get out of here. There's the border, and there's an airport. Out. If you're not out within 12 hours, a warrant will be issued for your arrest, and then you go back in the hooskow for a while, and we'll get to you when we get to you. You go on the bottom of the list as far as seeing any kind of a judge. All right? So this guy decides, hey, I want to show me what you're doing and tell me how many people were on the plane and when did it cross over into international airspace. And he's asking all these questions. The Attorney General of the United States says, sorry, Jack, that's confidential information. It's classified information. So you don't get to see all that detail. And that's none of your, they didn't say this, but all the other legal analysts said it's none of your goddamn business because, you're a lower level federal judge and you have no business interfering with our deportation of these terrible actors that are breaking our laws in the United States. And if you're on a visa and you break our laws, you're out of here. And they're deporting them. They're staging them probably in Guantanamo Bay, and then from there they go back to their native country, where they can start the deportation process. I think if you get thrown out because you break our laws, I think you're out. There's no coming back. Unless you jump the border again. And if they catch you again, you're in jail for 10 years or more. You misbehave in jail, keep adding time. Anyway, that is the judge. He's got a bump on his head. Someone whacked him on the head with a bat. Yeah, he's got one of these, he's got one of them bumps. It's not brain cells, it's bone. So don't get carried away. No, that's just an extra piece of bone. Someone dropped him on his head when he was a kid. Yeah, looks like a liberal judge, doesn't he? Do you? I have no idea. He says the information is woefully insufficient. Woefully insufficient. The federal judge accuses the Justice Department of evading obligations to comply with deportation flight request. Yeah, no. You don't have any business. Look, don't you have something to do? Well, do it. What, are there no criminals you're going to release from jail? These liberals are unbelievable. Yeah. You do something wrong when they're in power, and they're all over you. But now that Trump wants to deport the bad guys, the liberals are lining up saying, "Oh no, let's examine exactly why you're deporting them." And you got to go through the third degree and waste a lot of time investigating something that this guy It should be on a need-to-know basis, and this guy doesn't need to know. I think that's what the Attorney General told him. Stick it in your ear. So I think the Trump White House needs to man up a bit and go to the Supreme Court with an emergency stay, meaning stay away. Yeah. Anyway, that's the bonehead judge that's given the White House trouble. So that's what they do. They judge shop. The liberals do. Ongoing campaign. If he gets knocked out of looking at the cases, they'll find someone else, unless the Supreme Court, sheds some light on the situation. But they're adverse to sticking their nose in, normal judicial orders. But he has no business interfering with the President of the United States and him executing his executive powers to deport people. His cabinet, namely the Secretary of State, there doesn't have to be, there's no hearings. Secretary of State says you're out, period. There's usually some conditions and timing associated with that order, and bam, you're gone. You go to a deportation judge, and he signs the order, because the Secretary of State has the right to cancel your visa. I think that's the process. You have a visa. The presumption is you have a passport. If you don't, you're gone. Yeah, then you don't have papers. No papers? OUT. You don't have any rights. Non-citizens have no rights on the Bill of Rights. Right? The first 10 amendments. Yeah. How's that look? Oh, 10 decibels. That's not too loud. I was listening to, I listened to my own conversation. Let's cut that down to a dull roar. Yeah. There's VU meters on my soundboard, and you want to keep them out of the red. Keep them out of the red zone. So what I do is I use Flipboard. You see the big, that's a modern looking F, all right? That's what that is, so that's the logo, the insignia that's associated with this picture. Woefully insufficient, says federal judge. Yeah. And then there's a little flip. You see the little flip on the... No, you don't see the flip. There, see flip? It's just hiding on that seam. But you see enough of that picture. So you can see the headlines. Whoop, we'll go there. You're missing woefully. Fully insufficient. Woefully insufficient, yeah. These are a bunch of pictures, screen captures. This is Heathrow Airport. I've been through Heathrow a few times. That's the biggest airport, I believe, in London. There are thousands of flights go out of there, a day, to parts all over the place. It's, I mean, there's some really, real attractive, beautiful airports. Heathrow ain't one of them. It looks like you're flying through Houston, yeah. But you see that flame, if we would examine this picture, this is all the power, this is the power grid. You see these stanchions? All these wires are separated by several feet in distance. If you were to touch one of those, you're a French fry instantly. You know, this is 10, 20,000, 10,000 volts, up to 50, 100,000 volts. Those big sway cables right here, you can see the sway line right there. Big arch on that cable right there. Yeah, that could be a 50,000 volt cable. Could be 10,000. Depends on how those transformers work over there. But when you have see this, so you have a huge electrical fire here. It's coming from the ground. Some of those transformers have exploded. Their insulation was not capable of taking all this power. See this right here is a down wire. That's not a wire that's necessarily down because it blew down, burnt down. That's connected to those transformers that apparently blew. Blew up. Yeah. And when you have that kind of an electrical fire, so now you've lost power. They have to put that out. And you're not supposed to spray water on electricity like that. Everything else goes boom. Yeah. So I think at this point they're trying to figure out what the hell to do, because you don't see people jumping around there doing things. I see it could be 1, 2, 3 people right at this part. Yeah. There's the fencing. Keep out. Then there's another fence. That's it. Come on, baby. There we go. That's it. So this is like a 5-foot fence. And then if you don't get the joke, here's a 12-foot fence. Twice the height of the typical human being. Now, if you climb over that one and get into that fire stuff with electrical fires, see, here's a transformer sitting there. So until Heathrow gets power, which doesn't look like that's going to happen too soon. Yeah. DARPA. That's the defense. They're investigating the use of high-power laser cannons, if you will. The laser pointer that you would hold in your hand, and it shoots out this yellow or green beam, and you can beam it over there on the wall, showing the wall map. If you're standing, instead of holding a stick, like a cue stick, you hold this little laser pen, and it shines a brilliant red or green dot as you are describing whatever you want to describe in China or something on a world map. So in theory, this story about DARPA and acquiring the real world viability of laser equipped satellites. Questionable in the near term, Bupkis. They've already got laser satellite cannons up there. You can bet your bippy, because they can, they can take satellites out, take them out. Yeah, that'd be internet research. If the operator of that laser cannon. Yeah. Every once in a while, the U.S. government pays a fee and hires SpaceX to launch some of its satellite stuff, in secret. So no one knows what the cargo is on, and the satellite that, gets placed in orbit. The lasers have been around a long time. It's amazing that, they have them on trucks, they have them on ships. There's nothing, there's nothing secret about it. The target, the people that are doing the targeting, they see a target, a very low intense laser beam gets shot out of the laser cannon. It gets reflected off the target, so that they can find out, how far away the target is, what the altitude is, what the GPS coordinates are, and bam. Then the wave increases to a larger value, let's say. But the nice thing about a laser, and these, this little doodad here is, you can see, is emitting a laser light. See it shining on the Constitution right there. Yep, shining on the microphone right now. So that's a pointer, because the sensor, if you can see in there, see, it's mounted so deep inside here, it makes the sensor that's inside this thing very selective as to certainly a problem without it. And the display maximum, it holds a maximum on the bottom, and the current value 80.2 degrees Fahrenheit, with a maximum temperature of 83 as I scanned around there. I'm moving this thing all around. There you go, 80.6 maximum. Anyway, so that's how you keep track of that. I got one here, one in the kitchen. Buy one, get one. Amazon.com. Yeah. $19.95. Get your own, handheld. Let's see, so I can actually aim it at my air conditioning duct. Yeah, see, air coming out of the air conditioning duct is 52.7 degrees. That's why it's 69 degrees in the studio. 69.1. Woo, a little chilly. That's why I wear A multi-layer long sleeve. Yeah. I got my SpaceX shirt on right now. Marilyn keeps track of my logoed shirts. I'll turn the camera over here. You can see SpaceX. See, SpaceX. There you go, Elon. Yeah. Yeah. Good job. Keep doing that good job, Elon. Don't let the Democrats. They loved him, right? The Green New Deal. He's manufacturing these electric cars that are just spectacular. Anybody that has driven a Tesla will never drive any other car for the duration of their life cycle. I mean, it is the most amazing, device, the car. California, by the way, has just ruled in the affirmative, approving Tesla's full self-driving on all roadways in the state of California. Now that's a serious, in other words, the national people and the state people have examined the reliability of the full self-driving algorithms. It's like incredible programming. They call it the neural net and all this, they use these vocabulary words, which, there we go. My watch is now fully charged. So we'll put my watch back on. The watch looks out after all your vital signs and records them every 5 minutes. Yeah. So there you go. Put my password in there. It couples with the watch, it couples with the internet. And like I said, I can see, 201 miles worth of range in the car. And my iPhone is at 100%, my watch is at 100%, my AirPods are at 86%, my headphones, my Sony headphones are at 70%, as of 2 hours ago. Probably the ones I'm wearing. Yeah, I've got 2 sets of the Sony. I wear one here, and the other ones are in my bathroom charging on a little charging thingy that I have. I got a black napkin wrapped around, 2 black napkins wrapped around this porcelain putty cat that I hand painted and glazed in a big kiln. And if you don't glaze it properly, it explodes in the kiln because of the moisture. So you paint it. You paint this. I don't know what the heck it is, but I painted black paint all over this thing. But I left blotches out where I paint white paint, this glazed stuff, and it soaks into the porcelain, and when you put it in the kiln it becomes molten like glass. Yeah. So I have this really smooth like a calico cat, when it has 3 colors it's calico, and I believe if it is, has that brown spot with the red and with the black and the white, it's a female. I don't think you can have a male calico cat. Anyway, I created a porcelain calico cat sitting in my bathroom. I wrapped a black napkin around its neck. It drapes over the body, and I put the headphones right on the body. Yeah, it's like a perfect fit. I go right over the ears of the cat, and each headphone earpiece just hugs the sides of the cat. Yeah, and I have a wire there. It's charging. It should be charged. You know, when you charge the headphones, the Bluetooth gets cut off. So it's probably showing the level of the charge of those headphones right at the point when the charging began. Because as soon as you plug it in, it disconnects from the Bluetooth. Yeah. When you put the headphones on, you push a button on the left headphone piece, the bottom button, and that energizes the phones, and it says hello. And then you push it again, and it tells you how much, what your charge level is. If you move your thumb up around the ear cup a little bit, another button appears. Push that and see what happens. So that's the XM4s, the Sony XM4s. Amazon sent me one that has a broken thing. I had to send it back. There's no way. It's under warranty and everything. I don't, pardon the expression, but I'm too old, I'm over 80. I can legally say I'm over 80. I'm 80 plus 1 day, almost to the minute. In about 10 minutes, I'll be 80 plus 1 day. So I'm in my 81st year. I think I can say that, right? I've already finished 80 years, so I'm working on my 81st year. I'm in my first day of my 81st year. At the end of, when I get to March 19th of 2026, I would then I would have my 81st birthday, and within a few minutes after 9:36 a.m., then I'd be beginning to work into my 82nd year of floating around on Earth, creating trouble for everybody. Nah. ICE has just seized a bad-looking dude who assaulted a pregnant lady. These guys are animals. You just know it. And Biden let them in. Said, "Nope, just open the gates, take their names, and let them loose." And so it disincented the. Terrible. The Boston mayor. Yeah, she's facing the heat over her sanctuary city status. Yeah. Boston's radical mayor puts violent crime, illegal aliens, back on the street. Why would you do that? What the hell's the matter with you? Why would you take a violent criminal that has assaulted a pregnant lady in the city, and they go in one door, with the handcuffs on, and they come out the back door released. Come back for your court date in 2 months. Yeah, that's how you sit with that. Yeah. Boston's Mayor Wu. That's her last name, W-U. 2 letters. Yeah. I guess I can take this Band-Aid off. Yo! It's pretty nasty. Let me try out. This is where the cat. Look at that. The cat whacked me just before I went on my trip. I didn't realize. The cat nails are like, she just slapped me because I was rubbing her belly. And the boy cat doesn't like the belly rub, the top, the back, not the belly, James. So I'm pretty careful about doing that. Yeah, we don't want to make that mistake again. One thing about getting older than not older is your skin gets very thin. You become thin-skinned. When you're young, your skin is youthful and supple. When you get older, the skin gets real thin. So, your skin is an organ, by the way. You can't take it off at night. It's just an organ that fits all around your body. And the purpose of your skin, other than sensing the sense of touch, and it seals your body from exterior bacteria. Yeah, it covers everything. It covers everywhere, so that you don't catch bugs. No bacteria. And viruses, they just bounce off the skin, usually. Okay, viewed on your screen right in front of you, Apple's computer lineup has greatly benefited from its update to the M4 chip. The M4 is a new processor designed by Apple for Apple. It's, the chip is the size of your fingernail, but it sits on a bigger board, plugs into the motherboard. The entire electronics, it's like shocking. You see that big MacBook, all the electronics is on something that's this big. And it's fitted right up here. On this top edge, right above the 3, 4, 5, 6 key. It goes 3 through 7. That's the size of it right there. Yeah. You think it's all over the, underneath the big panel? No. It's all microelectronics. It's all, they call it surface-mounted devices. The M4 chip, has several trillion transistors. I think it's a trillion or 800 billion. The number of transistors that is in the M4 chip. Let's try this. Hey Siri, how many transistors in the M4 chip? Let's see who responds. 28 billion. Can you believe it? The M4 chip has 28 billion. Siri, stop. Let's try Siri on this one. Hey Siri, how many transistors in the M4 chip? You see it right there? 28 billion. I held my mouth. So. All right, hold on a minute now. God. 28 billion is the number of transistors in the M4 chip. I showed it to you right there in living color. Hey Siri, what time is it? 9:25. There you go. Pops right up on the display. Apparently this one's listening to me and this one is not. This one is connected to my computer, my master computer that's delivering all this information to you. So here's Levin talking in theory to Justice Roberts, and it's telling him, grow some balls. Oh God, these guys speed each other up on the air. There you go. They both worked in the Reagan administration. It's time to grow a pair, Judge. These judges, they don't like to stick their head out of the Supreme Court if they don't have to. It's getting to the point where they're going to have to. Clarence Thomas has made mention one way or the other that the court needs to clarify what all the judges below them, it's like a big hierarchy of judges, right? You got this judge, that judge, the circuit court judge, the appellate court judges, going up this pyramid, and the top of the pyramid is the Supreme Court, and those 9 people decide stuff, and they need to write something. They're probably arguing with each other in these conference room setting, or emails back and forth. And if they had 5 judges, there are 9. You have to have more than there's, so when you have 9, there's only way to, you can't cut 9 into 2 equal pieces. That's why there are 9 instead of 8. Because you have 4 versus 4. That wouldn't work. That's like a no decision. You got 4 judges, confer and come up with this opinion, and then you have the other 4 coming up with the opposite opinion. Now who's right? Yeah. So if you have 5-4, then then your motion passes, so to speak. So we need 5 justices to go along with the notion of clipping the wings of this other judge that's putting his nose into international affairs, which is not the function of a federal judge. He's not supposed to be steering the ship and telling the President of the United States how to behave. That is not on the business plan, of the President of the United States. Should not be micromanaged by these liberal judges that are all over the place. Yep. How would you like to go to med school for 4 years, maybe in a laboratory for 1 more year? And after 4 years of medical school, the student is devastated, to open the emails revealing that she didn't, no one picked her to be a resident. So she's stuck in not being able, she's, after after med school, 4 years of med school, it's kind of like undergraduate work in a sense. The first 2 years in undergraduate studies are, you're liberal, artsy, you take sociology, you take psychology, you take, some kind of a gymnasium class thingy, whatever you take 4, 5, or 6 classes, load yourself up with 14, somewhere between 14 and 19 hours, semester hours worth of studies. That's what you do for your first 2 years. Then the second 2 years of the 4-year stint in med school, they cycle you around. You might spend, so you got 2 years. You might spend 6 months in cardiac surgery. You made, so you have classroom studies, you got laboratory studies. You're looking at the blood cells under a microscope. I'm making up stories. You follow a cardiac surgeon around. You assist that surgeon in an operation. So if there's a patient like Jimmy, where open heart surgery is necessary, they should really call that open chest surgery, because they don't cut open the heart. It's kind of like a little misnomer. I don't know that's what they call it. But they basically open your chest up with a crank. They drop your vital signs so that you can't tell what's going on. And they replaced 4 blocked arteries in my heart. And they took the arteries right out of your mammary glands up here. Instead of my legs, they took it right out of your chest. And apparently, the veins are much better if they take them, out of your mammary glands up in your chest. They last for like 30 or 40 years. He said they're good for 35 years. Oh yeah? Is there a warranty? Yeah, wise guy, I know. I like to be funny. What the hell? Oh, can I buy an extended warranty? 35 years, you add that to that, it'd be 120. Okay, that's good enough. I don't think my life cycle will go to 120. My cardiac surgeon says 94. He circled it. Wrote it right on my chart. Put it in the official record. He said, I think you're good till 94. Then something's going to fall off, and, you'll probably expire somewhere in your 94th. You may not see your 94th birthday. Moved here around with birthdays. Yeah, well, I try to take it a little carefully. And, I've had this surgery, my quadruple bypass surgery. It was 6 this June. So 6 years and 9 months ago. Okay? Because it was like June. This is March. The end of March. April, May. So So it would be 6 years, 10 months ago. I had quadruple bypass surgery 6 years, 10 months ago. So on June 5th, that makes my 7th year post-op. Yeah. As I recall, my biggest problem coming out of that surgery was I didn't have an RN that was assigned to my case that knew, because, had to deal with a patient like me that talks when he comes out of something like that. And, they immediately go for the glove. Anyway. After 4 years of medical school, this student, that's with mask and without mask, nice looking young 26-year-old. Yeah, you got to go through 30 years of schooling, right? To have enough factual information to become a doctor. Then, of course, you have to take the the board exams to, just see if you have the aptitude to be, so you can start writing prescriptions, and whatever the heck medical practice you're interested in pursuing. But they didn't pick her up. So she's now, so what does that mean? So she doesn't, there's no hospital. She applied to a bunch of hospitals, let's say 5. You apply for 5, 6, 7 hospitals. They look at your credentials, it's like trying to get into school again. But now you're trying to get into the hospital so that you can, have residency in a hospital. That's the next step after med school. Then you get picked up residency in a hospital. Yeah, I should have done that. My former father-in-law, William R. Hill, was a medical doctor in Virginia. He was president of the Virginia Medical Association. He's president of this, president of that, and that. He said, Jimmy, if you go to medical school, I'll pay your way under the condition that when you graduate from medical school, you're going to take over my practice here in Richmond, Virginia. Because when I retire, I want you to take all my patients and take care of them. Because sooner or later, I'm going to be at the end of my life cycle. And you can fill in, I got a complete practice. You just move right in here. You're number 2 doctor under me. And eventually, I'll retire and you can take over my practice. You'll be on the boards, you'll be, doing thoracic surgery, whatever kind of specialty you want to do. But this will be where, you basically spend 9 to 5. But Mr. Wilson's in surgery this morning. He'll be in this afternoon. One of those things. I should. Why not do that? Stupid is, stupid does. I just didn't. Damn it. He says, you're in. I'm on the board of University of Virginia. You're accepted. Do you have a folder with your stuff in it, your credentials? I said, yes, sir. He looks at them. He says, you're in. You're approved. You can start Monday in the medical school. Forget about, waiting for the letter to show up in the mail. He says, you're in. You're going to do the work, right? I said, of course. He said, well, you're in. Let's go. What's there not to like? I didn't do it. Dumbass. Nice man too. Goddamn. I understand. I don't know. How do you not do that? You don't have to move to, you have to move. I was living in Pompano Beach, Florida, I believe. I married his daughter. That's why he was my father-in-law. What a deal. Nicest man on the planet. He knew the daughter was a little bit had a little wire. She was a little wild as a young one. I was not wild. He could tell the difference. He thought I'd be good. And, he'd marry me into the family a little tighter by going to medical school and with the promise that I would take over his practice. It was a verbal, he wasn't asking me to sign on the dotted line. He says, do we have a handshake on that? I said, yes, sir. But I never did it. I didn't do it. Stupid. Richmond is a marvelous city. You have seasons. It's not like, you're up in the top of Albany, New York, where it gets sub-zero and 6 feet of snow. You have the seasons in Richmond, Virginia. It's a nice place. It's a beautiful southern kind of a city. He lived in a marvelous townhouse type house thing. Dr. Hill did with his wife. They were marvelous people. Going over to Dr. Hill's house for dinner was, an exciting, nice experience. I mean, you couldn't have nicer people. So why didn't I do it? I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember there being a reason code on not doing that. I'm just handling this boom microphone thing while I'm stumbling for an answer. That's why they call it a boom mic. If you screw with it, it goes boom. It goes right up into the microphone and flutters all those little diaphragms and things, because it's measuring my voice, and you have the ability to really get deep. Yeah, this microphone picks up every sound, and it goes, ooh. It goes real low. How low can you go? That's about it. Anyway, that's the story here. In People magazine, she unnamed soul doesn't get picked up by the hospitals that she applied for, and she was devastated because no one revealing she didn't match into any residencies. Didn't match. What? That must be some kind of lingo, medical lingo. You have to match. No, she didn't match. So she is what is known as outstanding in her field. She's going to have to go match somewhere else. Have to expand her residencies for other geographies. I remember my son was married to this lady who got accepted in several medical schools. And one of them was, I don't know, somewhere like St. Louis area. And he had this long name, of all the. And the other medical school she got accepted into was Yale. I said, Lee, go for the 4-letter word, okay? Because they have diplomas that are really big and has YALE on it. Everybody knows Harvard, Princeton, Yale. They're the 3 most prestigious, medical schools in the country. Harvard, Princeton, Yale. Hello? Yale? Don't tell me that the other school has a specialist, about, forget that. Every medical school has marvelous doctors in it, and they're not all the best. Some are better than others, but you're bound to find one that is really good in the specialty that you're interested in. And quite frankly, you don't know what specialty you're interested in because you haven't seen what the medical school has to offer. Your first 2 years, you take all the basic topics, and the second 2 years, they cycle you around, in 4, 5, 6 month segments, where you go, you do thoracic surgery for 4 months, you do brain surgery for 4 or 5 months, you heal some bones in the legs, you do ear, nose, throat, you get down there in the ankles, gynecological, Anyway, there's all kinds of open heart surgery stuff you could do, and that gives you an idea. Okay, now that you've cycled around, 5 or 6, you pick. There are like 10 specialties you can pick. And after you go through those 10, you sit back with your yellow pad and say, okay, which specialty should I concentrate on? Let's do the bypass surgery thing, or removing tumors from the brain. And you poke around in the brain and you see how the dissimilar materials, and you scrape out the part of the gray matter that's non-malignant, but it's still growing in there and it's squeezing the brain tissue, and you got something in there the size of a golf ball, and it's got to come out. So you cut a hole in the skull, and that's always so dangerous when you break that seal that's wrapped around the entire brain. And you go in there and you start playing around getting rid of some tumor. You dig it out with tools, or you suck it out with suction, please. I don't know. Just little bits at a time. I don't know what to. I think it's more you use, some little thing, and you separate the tissues and scoop that out and leave that in, Then you put the bone back, but you cut a hole in there with a jigsaw, a medical jigsaw. It's a little one. You drill a hole in there first. That's a pretty sensitive area to start cutting holes in your head. But you jigsaw around, you save that part of the bone, because when you put everything back together, when you put Humpty Dumpty back together again, you want to put that bone back on. If you got a plate, save the bone and put it back. Bone heals to bone very nicely. You put a stainless steel plate in there, and every time you go through an airport, you're going to trigger the alarm, because you got this a 4-inch stainless steel plate that's screwed into your. No, we don't want to do that. You save the bone. Yeah. And then you take some cadaver bone and you fill it in around the edges, like plaster of Paris. And that'll grow. It's all sterile. And, seal up the place where they had to get into your brain and do some handiwork. Anyway, I didn't do the med school thing. Silly as stupid does. What are you going to say? Big fire in London Heathrow Airport. And where's the fire? It's right where all the power is. So that means a transformer, has these transformers, they're big. They're the size of your basic refrigerator, and they're sealed up with like a petroleum oil, silicone oil, whatever. So the entire electrodes, the coils, are submerged in an oily substance. Let's put it that way. Silicone oil. And it's pumped, it could be pumped around to a radiator. And the radiator then dissipates the heat that might be built up in this transformer. Well, apparently, said transformer failed, and it overheated like crazy and exploded. It ruptured. And then it caught, and of course it's very hot, caused fire, oil is burning, and everything around is burning. You can see that fire is, there's no fire truck around anywhere that we can see. It doesn't mean there isn't one, there just wasn't one. Anyway, that kind of a fire is hard to put out, because with electrical fire, do you really want to spray that with water? And then that water seeps out, you got to have all kinds of rubber boots and stuff, or else you get electrocuted, because you got a lot of electrons floating around there. Like 10,000 volt electrons, which tend to jump on you a couple of feet. A spark will jump on you, bam, and you're you don't want that to happen. You go boom. Yeah, you turn into a French fry. So that you have to be very careful with how you treat a fire like that. And I'm not in a position to tell you what that would be. But you may have to just let this thing burn down a little bit. You have to smother it. The preferred method would be to smother that fire with carbon dioxide, CO2 gas. I have a fire extinguisher in my kitchen, away from the range. It's in the very edge of the kitchen, enclosed in a cabinet door. But it's as far away from the source of heat as possible and still be in the kitchen. That is how you place. That's where you place a fire extinguisher. Close, easy access, and close, but far enough away from the range, because that's where almost all fires that start in the kitchen start on the range, either because you turned up the heat too much, and some oil that was on a pan started to burst in flames, because you went to go relieve yourself and you forgot about the pan that's sitting on the range, and it goes boom, it gets so superheated that the oil bursts into flames. And if you don't have a CO2 fire extinguisher close by, that kind of a fire expands very fast, because that oil kind of like explodes all over the kitchen. So you could have several fires, on the walls and, everywhere this oil expanded to. It's a 5-pound fire extinguisher, so it has a lot of CO2 in there. I think I got it serviced. Every few years you have to have it recertified, filled up again. They fill it up with liquid CO2, so there's a lot of CO2 in there. 5 pounds worth. Heathrow Airport people say they don't know when power is going to be restored. They need to truck in a huge series of transformers. They got to let that thing die down. It's probably hot. That looks like some kind of a transformer guy right there. Yeah. Sitting inside that fence. But use all these poles and insulators. That's all those 10,000 volt wires that are coming in. And these transformers are reduction transformers. They go from 10,000 volts to 440. And 440 becomes 220. They keep dividing it in half. Most of your your air conditioning system runs on 230 volts. Your range runs on 230 volts. Your washing machine, your wishy-washy, runs on 110. It may be a 20 amp circuit, but it's 110 volts. Because you just got the wishy-washy, that's all you got. But the dryer, now, that's a 230 volt appliance. Because of the heating coils that are inside of it, electric heating coils that are inside an electric dryer. There is drying equipment that's energized with natural gas, but in apartment buildings, generally they use electric dry heat for the laundry equipment. Yeah. Anyway, so Heathrow now has been out of commission for more than a day. So if you don't have electricity, they got to cancel the flights because you can't run the tower on battery power. The tower of power. All that telemetry stuff and the communications with the airplanes. They have relatively high power transmitters, so the pilots can hear the signals, from hundreds of miles away. UHF, ultra high frequency spectrum. Anyway, so Heathrow's out. Okay, here's another little panel I just happened to pop up, unrelated to the Heathrow Airport. And the question is, Apple's revenues. $391 billion in revenues. Can you imagine? This is a company known as the Big Apple. You see the apple in the middle there? YOY is year over year. It's up 2% from the year before. So that's not so good. Company-wise, overall, 2% year over year. iPhone sales represents 51% of the total revenues that come into Apple. 25% is all the services that surround the use of iPhones. The App Store, you can buy extended service. So instead of just the 1 year parts and labor, you can pay monthly up to several years. I've not actually had an iPhone over 2 years because I keep trading them in and getting a new one because to keep up with the cameras. This year, the iPhone, I have the iPhone 16. So in September, they're coming out with iPhone 17. And I understand that right now we have 45 million pixel imagers behind the wide-angle lens and the super wide-angle lens. But only a 12 million pixel imager behind the telephoto lens. They are swapping out that imager and putting 45 million pixel imagers behind all three cameras. Yeah, that's quite an upgrade. To me, that's worth the upgrade. So then what AT&T's deal is, it's not an Apple deal, it's an AT&T deal. Because I'm a customer in good standing with AT&T. Oh, God. With all the iPads and iPhones and, our boys that live down in Florida, nearby, we pay for their phone service and their iPad connectivity and all that. So that our phone bill is around $575 a month, which includes all kinds of taxes and crap, that the Public Service Commission adds to it. Yeah, it looks like that London airport. I'm seeing these pictures right here where my finger is. It's all smoldering. It looks like they're spraying something on it. Yeah, the fire has a power outage. It's still, airport is closed. Big airport, baby. Heathrow. It's an ugly one. I don't like it. Yeah, they took my bags apart and inspected all my camera stuff. And they just throw it all back in the bag. Jeez. Whew. I brought about $8,000 worth of cameras and lenses with me on this European tour thing. All right, anyway, so $391 billion in revenues with Apple, 2% growth year over year. 51% of its revenue is from iPhone sales. 25% is services, which is App Store and Apple TV and all that. So 51% is iPhone, 7% is iPad, 8% is Mac, and 9% is, like Apple Watch. They call it wearables. And their speaker thing, they have a speaker thing that connects to, with Bluetooth and all that. It's kind of like Apple's version of Alexa, what time is it?
Good morning, J.L. Wilson.
Are you hearing this?
10:01 a.m.
It's talking to me. Yeah. Alexa, what color is your hair?
I don't actually have any hair.
Alexa doesn't talk much to me. She says, I actually don't have hair. Okay? It's amazing the technology where the microphones are listening 24/7 for that keyword. Now I have one of those Alexa doodads next to me in the living room, and the secret word is computer. So if I say that word out loud, it wakes up and starts talking to me. Okay, revenue by region. I'll get out of here with this display. 43% of their revenues is in the Americas. That's like our continent here. Canada, United States, Mexico, the Americas. 26% of the revenues come from Europe. 17% comes from Greater China. Means all over China. 6% from Japan and 8% from everywhere else in the Asian Pacific. So that's 14% for Japan and the Asian Pacific. And 17% all over China, 26% all over Europe, and 43% in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. There you go, that's an interesting chart. Here we go with a satellite, a anti-satellite weaponry. You can be sure the U.S. has satellite telemetry, satellite equipment with laser technology behind the curtain. Yeah, they may not have that thing hanging out for view, because all the major industrialized nations have satellites up there, and I'm sure some of them are equipped with technology that they can aim at whatever the hell they want to aim at. Gotta be. What are they waiting for someone to say go? Yeah, no. So the iPad Pro is now floating around with an M4. My MacBook Air, I believe, has M3. Let me just check it. Let's take a look here. About this Mac. Yep, M3. And 24 gigabytes of memory. No fans. Nice thin design. I love these MacBook Airs. Solid as a rock. Oh yeah, that's why I got the thermometer out. I was measuring the temperature because let's get it out. Because I think that the chip technology is, look at that, 97 degrees. And I run it down the side here, 96, 91. Come back up here again, it's like 95, 96, 97. It's, the chips are right behind here. I can feel it with my fingers. Yeah. Down here. It's done, yeah. So all the heat there's a heat sink right here. It's connected to the shin bone. The shin bone's connected to the ankle bone. Yeah. So they have these, these cases are machined out of a solid piece of special aluminum alloy. That's very hard. It's not steel, it's aluminum. It's not magnetic. So if I have a strong magnet, if I hold it around here, there's no, other than magnets that are internal here to keep the lid shut down and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I have a MacBook Air, and I got a backup MacBook Air. I got two of them. They're identical. They have the same software in there. This one's all like screwed into other, electronically with wires and things. The other is just sitting underneath my cocktail table, and if I wanted to do one of these broadcasts, remotely, I would use that other computer and just lift up this they call it a Rodecaster Duo. So if you're interviewing one other person, you've got two microphone sources right here. There's a Bluetooth source, so you Bluetooth your phone into there. So when people call in, that'll come in the third. And what's this other one? Oh yeah, I have the fourth one connected to the shin bone. Yeah. The fourth one is, yeah, that's when you open the door and you get the applause. There are other things, there's crickets. Yeah, I don't get any phone call, I just get crickets. Ooh. Okay. Shut up. There you go. This guy's lightning. So that used to be my theme song. But I started, it's like a 45-second little, pretty cute, right? That's it. That used to be my theme song. I'd start my show with that. I should probably do that. Use that to open the broadcast. That goes on for about 30 seconds. And then when we're done with that, we just phase that down and we come back into, how about that? That works. And just have Epidemic Sound Instrumental as my background music. Because we're streaming. Remember, we're streaming on 3 networks. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter X Live. All 3 of these social networks are broadcasting this to you live. You can listen, my hand goes up and down, your hand goes... Yeah, a live broadcast. Now you can come in anytime, either during the broadcast or after the broadcast, and listen to the beginning. Now, of course, you can't talk. You can't. You can send text messages, but since you're listening to something that happened already, you can't talk to me and have me answer something unless you called me, when the broadcast is live. So if you want to, at 8, I'm pretty much getting out of here at 8:15 in the morning. It was 10, and it was 9, 9:30, and it was 8:30. I'm whippersnippering out here about 8:15 in the morning. I am live. I figured, I've got my, unless the only delay would be occasionally, there is a little construction going on in the downtown Boca Raton, and they might be lousing around with our digital cable. We have a one optical cable that's handling all the telephone feeds, which I don't have any. I'm strictly cellular. I don't have a landline. I am cellular only. But the cable, cable and the internet and all that, that's coming through an optical cable that AT&T put, in the streets, if you will. So we don't have any choices. Of course, I could do the, what do you call it? You have the satellite dish that goes up. I used to have that in my house. Could do Starlink, right? But that's, that doesn't have the bandwidth. I don't think I could do live broadcast with the Starlink. I don't think there's enough upload speed. Download speed, you got, 150 megabits per second, I believe. It peaks out around that. The question is, how about the uplink? There was a test I saw where they were testing up and down. But the uplink, I don't know, for some reason or other, the uplink is a lot slower than the downlink. Now that's going right through the airwaves, right through a satellite. Yeah. Elon Musk has got about 3 or 4,000. I think he's got just under 4,000 satellites. Every couple of days he's launching more satellites up there in a geosynchronous kind of array that's, you can see all these pentagon-shaped connectivities all around the Earth. And he's concentrating, the satellite connectivity and, in the deep parts of Africa, where they're not going to have data lines in there, period. In war-ravaged areas where things are getting blown up and, so you don't have the services you used to have, Elon has provided the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian people with Starlink, free, no charge. He drops off pallets and pallets of these kits. You know, you and I pay $500 a piece for those kits. Then you pay, like $100, $200 a month, for the satellite service. Ouch. Yeah. But it's pretty cool, you put this little antenna package on the top of your boat, and you're floating around out in your boat, and you got internet connectivity. Yeah, because you get a couple miles offshore, and your satellite is gone because you're too far away from the satellite. Those only are good for about 3 miles away. So if you have Starlink, you have your internet and satellite. You have your internet and your cellular service, activated, because you can make telephone calls on the internet. At least you can with iPhones and iPads. Yep. This right here. Remember that panel that was showing us the percentage of revenues? This is the SERP data. If you look in this corner, the Consumer Intelligence Research Partners, CIRP. They keep track of all this stuff. Let's come up here. So the blue is iPad Pro. The green, or mustard looking, greenish, green. That's MacBook Air. And the orange color is, the traditional desktop computer where you buy this 20-inch monitor, and all the computer stuff is behind the monitor. You really don't have a little tower power computer thing. It's all built into the monitor, and your jacks for USB-C and USB-A. You plug in the back of the monitor. Run the wire down through a hole in your desk. It comes up around to your keyboard, or you just have the Bluetooth keyboard that goes right to the monitor. We're coming into a portless society because of the Bluetooth, which is a very fast connection now. All right, so look at this. Let's go to the bottom. The bottom figures. So 44. How are we doing here? Let me bring that down just a tad bit. Yeah. Remember me, myself, and I? Yeah. I'm competing with the when you're doing what do you call it? Live streaming. We're streaming. The signal is like streaming down a river. Everything over the air is streaming. But with these kind of connections, if you go quiet for a while, the signal will drop off. YouTube Live will just end. They think you're done if there's no signal coming across. If there's no amplitude modulation, like what we're doing here. Yeah. So that's why we have. So if I take a breath, I want to make sure that my, that my royalty-free audio piece from the sound instrumental of Epidemic Sound Instrumental. No voices, no singing. It's just all this electronic music stuff. But this way, when I take a breath, I got some music in the background, so that I'm always streaming something through this pipe that we have opened here for 2 hours and 2 minutes. You see the countdown clock? Right, let me just bend that You see, 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 27 seconds. That's the elapsed time. I've been yakking here for over 2 hours. Yeah, I used to have an hour show. Then it was an hour and a half. Now it's 2 hours. I've gone as long as 3. I actually had a 3-hour broadcast last week. I don't know. I got excited about the, talking about something. Went right past 3 hours. YouTube Live is saying, "What the hell are you doing? This stuff is recorded for perpetuity. You're taking up a lot of bandwidth." I don't know how long this stuff stays up there. It should stay up there at least a year. I mean, it probably comes up with, I don't know, I've never seen a suggestion in any of my emails, so I have to pay attention. Where, would you like to renew the annual? I don't know how long it would stay up there. If new ones weren't coming up. I've kind of lost count on how many of them there are. It's hundreds and hundreds. In the early days, it wasn't every day. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Anyway, if you look at the bottom row, you notice over in this corner, see there's 2020, and then above it's 2021. Well, let's just take a look at 2020 first. So 44% of Apple's computer deliveries was the MacBook Pro. 33% was MacBook Air, and 22% was desktop. So that's 44, 33, and 22. So that's 77, 87, 97, that accounts for 99%. It adds up to 99, right? 4, 3, 7, 8, 9, yeah. That's 99%. The other 1% is, rounding up and rounding down. All right, we're going to go up a year, and you can see that the distribution of MacBook Pro, Air, and Desktop has jiggled a little bit because the MacBook Pro is 2% more than it was the prior year, and it came out of apparently the desktop sales, because you see they're down 1% and the other is up 2. So if you add that across, that probably adds up to 100. 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. So that's an even 100. So that's 100%. The one below it's 99%, and it's because of rounding errors. Now let's jump up to the third bar, which is 2022, and we're going to compare that to 2022. What? Oh yeah, 20, 21, 22. Okay. So the third row from the bottom, 41, 30, and 29. Yeah, so look at that. So desktop sales has jumped from 22% to 29% of the revenues for these computer sales. And 3% came out of MacBook Air, and 3% came out of MacBook Pro. So they really expanded, the compression wire. Now we're going to go to the very top. Oh, we got 2 more bars. 2023. Look at that, 51% of the sales, of all the computer sales, is MacBook Pro. And 39%, wow, that's jumped up 6%, MacBook Air. And the computer sales has dropped from 22 to 10. So it lost 12% down, and it spread evenly. on the other two. So the MacBook Pro and MacBook Air is growing. And if we go to 2024, which is just last year, the very top bar, 53% of all their computer sales was MacBook Pro, and 33% MacBook Air. And if you go up and down the charts, it's pretty much like a 33%, 1/3 of their sales, MacBook Air. And the desktop has gone from 22% to 14. But 14 is better than 10. Yeah. So only 1 year, 2022. The computer sales are up a bit. So that's the show. Very interesting. And the computers, if they were to come up with touchscreen on these computers, so this device I got right here, this is an iPad, and this beautiful keyboard, for an extra $300. Your iPad magnetically sticks to the back, which has strong magnets embedded in the back of this shell casing. That's very thin. It's super thin. It folds down all the way, and yeah. See, the screen went off. There you go. Open back up. You see the time? It says 9:41. That's not the time. There you go. That's back open. There you go. There's the story. Shipments of the computers. I thought that was an interesting story, and so did you, apparently. Yeah. All right. Well, I made my special sauce last night. I made it in a 6-quart stovetop pan with a handle on it instead of the big pot. So I used 3 big sweet onions, and I only used 3 cans of. We had a little discussion about the tomatoes because my sauce is a tomato sauce. So one would think. Here we go. There's the Alessi whole peeled tomatoes. That is the tomatoes that I'm using. And I was bringing attention to the fact that is under the supervision of the DOP. And that's the Department, of Agriculture. And the cans are indicated with DOP on there. So I drew a blue circle around it with an arrow to bring attention. My son, who is, look at that, the cans are serially numbered. Now you talk about someone who's paying attention. This is the 2023 season. See the crop, CROP. Is a 2023 season. There were at least 24,000 cans produced of these tomatoes, and so I'm calling attention to the fact. Here's the expiration date of the sealed can is December 31, 2027. For the 2023 crop. They're sealed, from bacteria and all that kind of stuff. Refrigerate after opening. I use the whole can at once. I don't think I've ever had a half a can in the refrigerator. I dumped the whole gall darn thing in the pot. And with all those onions, that adds a couple inches in the pot. and it brings it right up to the tippy top, not, within about an inch of the top of the pot. It's a marvelous pan thing. I finally sorted out this Inogen 5G business, and got the equipment yesterday, or a couple of days ago. I swapped out, it's like Tuesday or Wednesday, they picked up the other unit and properly delivered the Inogen 1G5, which is brand new in a box. I have a medical supplier, Lincare, and they, my doctor specified the Inogen 1G5. My doctor and myself studied this equipment for a couple of months. I'm that kind of person that pays attention to these things. My doctor said because of my low blood oxygen level, I need to have one of these concentrators with me when I travel. Since you can't have the big cylinder, although my daughter would have had that cylinder ready for me if I needed it, I said, no, I got to come up with this concentrator thing. So if I need to suck on some air, I have this concentrator which delivers 95% oxygen on demand. All you gotta do is breathe, and it goes into your little nostril thingies. Or you can have an open pipe. I have it either way. It knows when you're breathing in. If you have, those things near where you're breathing in. Breathing through your nose. Anyway, this battery runs for, a good 6 hours. The heavy duty battery. Runs 12 hours actually on the lowest thingy. And you turn it up to 4, and the battery's good for, like 4 hours. Well, you can see it on the bottom. The high capacity battery will run 5 hours on setting number 4. So if you got a 3-hour flight, and then an hour before, a couple hours before, or they could, legally they can keep you on the plane for like up to 3 hours, on the taxiways. Something's up with the airport, or something's up with the plane in front of you, whatever, if something comes up and you can't take off on your proper time, you have to add, your flight time is 3 hours. They can stall you for 3 hours, and then you got 2 hours before flight time, right? You got to get there 2 hours before. So 3 and 3 is 6, 7, 8. So you need at least, so between setting 2 and 3, I've got, somewhere between 7 and 10 hours of battery life. So I told him, I said, I got to have this high capacity battery. So that's charged. I can actually, let's go to the App Store. I think I could show you on this. APP. We'll just do a little. And on the search here, I-N-O-G-E. All right, Inogen. What do we got? Oops. I got to type there. I-N-O-G-E-N. No space. O-G-E-N. There we go. Inogen. Inogen Connect. This is it right here. That logo is recognizable. Bingo. We're going to get it. Bring it right. Double click that. Face ID. It's medical equipment. It's DME. It's keeping track of my POC. What's a POC? Portable oxygen concentrator. You got to use all these acronyms. I know. Open it. Let's see if I can get this on here. Concentrator setup and connect to concentrator. Allow. Now it's looking for it. We're looking for select your concentrator. I think I might have to push a button on that. Let me just show you on this handy dandy. We'll get that activated in a minute. Let's just look here. I should have it open. There it is. Oh boy, it's so bright. Let me turn the screen down. This camera is so sensitive. There you go. Now you can see it. Not the same as if I had it on here. I'll get it on there another day. Because I want this iPad to be able to see it. What you see right there? Battery's fully charged. The setting is set. The flow setting is set to 4. You can see a 4 on there illuminated. And the device is in good health. Yeah. So it's nice. This, new equipment that's Bluetooth connected, as long as it's within range. So, and I think the Bluetooth is good for about 30 feet. So, and when you get back in range, it reconnects. Yeah. It's quite a, it's about the size of the iPad, but this thick instead of this thin. Yeah, but it's about the same dimension as this iPad, its thickness and height. Maybe not quite as high, but it's about this high, yeah. So that was an exercise. So LinCare was very nice in swapping it out because I wanted the G5. I said, if you don't have it or you can't get it, I'll just go to Inogen One Direct. They'll lease it to me the same way you are, with my insurance coverage. That I don't have to go through you, but I'd rather, because if something happens, you can swap it out or whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine, but anyway, they were good enough to swap it out. There you go. There's a good year up there. Amazing, isn't it? Let's look in the window of this hotel. No, can't quite get that much detail. There's the bridge right there. Goes up and down. I don't have this view anymore because all these little rooftops have been replaced with this big condo project. It sweeps across the whole property. I do see the hotel, but there's a big building on one side, big building on another side. You've seen the shots, yeah. Because I did some. Oh, let's go back. Let's go back and look for some suns. I'll show you. There you go, right there. This is a wide angle one right here. So you can see this condo project right there. That's where those barrel tile roofs were. You got that building. And this is early in the morning. This is 6:48 a.m. You can see the sun is just illuminating the sky. You got this deep blue sky. There you go. There you go. Unbelievable, huh? You hear the buses when they were on their way to the controversial El Salvador deportation flight. Yes, they probably have 30 prisoners in each bus. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, the whole caravan of buses, bad guys that we've been collecting over, a couple of day period of time. Our border czar is, Homer is on the ball getting this stuff underway. Is a Ukrainian that turned in his regular hunting rifle for a Beretta MRAD rifle, which is with a telescopic sight, and he's got a silencer on the end of that. I showed you yesterday the silencer I have unattached. It'll screw on the front end of my rifle. I have a rifle that's chambered in 9mm, would you believe it? And I have a whole case of super high velocity 9mm rounds that'll come out of that barrel at around 2,800 feet per second, which is more than double the round speed, when it comes out of, a handgun, a 6-inch barrel. Yeah, super high velocity, lightweight, 40 grain. I don't know which one. Is this up here? Oh God, whew, it's heavy. This is the 5.0. I have another handgun, a 5.7 by 28. It's a little skinny bullet with a 5.7mm diameter bullet. That's a real high speed. That's a super high speed. Let's see if it says. Ooh, God, it's heavy. It's a 40 grain bullet, but it says super high velocity. If you look up the ballistics, it's like 3,000 feet per second coming out of this handgun. Bam! I mean, it comes out so fast that if you just have a regular Kevlar bulletproof vest, whoosh, it'll go right through it. Yeah. See? That's crazy. Anyway, so I'm all set with my portable oxygen. So, how's Trump doing? Well, this is the views on Trump administration on the ban on trans women in sports. 68% of the American population favor the ban on trans women, basically trans men in women's sports. They didn't have enough space to go through that. This is a guy that all of a sudden decides he wants to be a woman. But his whole body, he's got a bigger body, longer arms, this and that. This woman, is in the Olympics. She trained her whole life to be in the Olympics. And this guy shows up that thinks he's a girl. And because he thinks he's a girl, and he's convinced some psychiatrist, oh yeah, he thinks he's a girl, then he can enter NCAA and Olympic events, and basically steal a first place trophy, get a gold, an Olympic gold. He lapped her, 2 full laps. He beat her by like 30 seconds. It's terrible. Well, Trump says, you don't ban it, we're cutting off all the federal aid. You want Olympics? You want money from the United States? You get 0 if you allow trans men in women's sports. If any athlete was born a man, that athlete cannot compete in women's sports, period. Anything. Weightlifting, swimming, whatever the heck. No men in women's sports. And the trans is, that's all in the head. That's psychological stuff. You can't cut off the what do you call it and call that person a woman. It's not. Genetically, it's still a man, baby. Make English the U.S. language. Can you imagine Trump just signed an executive order to make English the language of the United States? No president before him has done that. How ridiculous is that, right? 66%. Well, look at that. 32% of Americans oppose that. Why the hell would you oppose that? I mean, the deportation of illegal immigrants. 35% of the American population oppose us deporting illegal immigrants. I'm more interested in looking at the very right-hand side of this table. There are two genders of American species. We have the male and the female. Just two. 44% of the Americans that were polled opposed the fact that we have a male and a female. 44%? How the hell is you got 44% of American people say, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. No, come on. That's the way it is. You got boys and girls, You ever heard of the birds and the bees? Oh, God. Anyway, this was a survey done by the Fox News poll. This was on air with Trace Gallagher at 11:41 p.m. last night. So I did a little screen capture on that one because I thought if you look at the very right side of this, ban trans men in women's sports, 30% of the people that were polled said, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. Oh boy. There you go. I'm looking. There you go. I got a package that I sent back to, what do you call it? There's a package that got returned to Amazon. I'm tracking those guys. Saying, hey, good morning. This is this morning, Friday morning, March 21 at 7 a.m. sharp. It says, hey, good morning. Sunny conditions today. It's currently 60 degrees. There'll be a high of 72. And right now it's 75, so on my patio, the sun was striking the patio all morning, so probably some of those heated, my balcony got heated by direct sunlight. Yeah, this is the air temperature at 72. Right now it's 75.0 on my patio because the sun was striking the patio. Clear skies, man. The sun was coming all the way in when it was real low. It shot right against this wall. And this wall is 35 feet in from onto the balcony. Yeah. 68.4 in my little studio thing here. 68.4. And if I shoot the temperature coming out of that vent, there you go. It's coming out at 51.8 degrees. Yes, sir. You put your hand up there. It's chilly. That air conditioner works pretty good. Yeah. Yep. I'm looking to see if there's anything else we need to see here. I did a little screen capture. This is my home screen on my phone as of 7:05 a.m. Yep. That's my home screen. And then I zero in on this at March 21. And with that, I'm going to say hasta luego. I've been yickety yakking here for 2.5 hours. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. We really appreciate you're paying attention to what's going on around here. I'm going to wet my whistle. I made my world famous spaghetti sauce, which is really quite, well, it's tomato sauce. And the tomatoes are so good. Those Alessi tomatoes, when you buy them, they're in a 28-ounce can. And, which I just showed you a little while ago with the DOP. The Department of Agriculture in Italy, they basically they watch over, these tomato farms, and they make sure that when they pick these plum tomatoes, they're not round like the tomatoes you find here in the fields here. They're, shaped like a plum. They're, not round. They're like that shape, about that size. Yeah, about 4 or 5 inches long and maybe this big in diameter. Yeah. They're skinned, so they take those tomatoes, they pick them. They're not bruised. They don't have bugs, holes. They wash them properly. Come on, it's Italiano. They value their tomatoes big time. They watch over these farmers to make sure everything is done on the up and up. And we got good looking tomatoes. That's what the DOP does. My son sent me a picture of a can that they use in his kitchen facilities at the Royal Palm Yacht Club. Yeah. He's in the back of the house. He's one of their people that cooks the food. Or if they come around the 10th hole, he loves to run the grill over there. Make sure everybody gets a beautiful hamburger. I worked in the kitchen when I was going to college. I loved it. I love working in the kitchen. Yeah. I got up to tenderloins. I started at Jello, and then they rotate you around these departments, and you have to put in your time and your tenure, and you got to graduate up to the next higher level. Well, after I was in school there for like 6 years, just getting a combined degree with a super major in biology and a super major in, chemistry and biochemistry. Cryptogamic botany. I mean, that was like a Mr. Science. Whew. With a minor in math. I don't know how I did that. Just took a lot of math. You had to do a lot of math, with the chemistry. A lot of this calculus stuff. Calculating the volumes of certain containers. Anywho, yeah, that's so in the I like being in the back of the house. I worked, I took orders. I worked in the front of the house too. Like a food runner, and being like an assistant manager in front of the house. I said, what? Put me in the back of the house. I'd rather be cooking the food rather than standing around here watching these guys eat it. Yeah. All right. So it's almost 11 o'clock. It's 10:52. 10:53. That clock is going to switch in about 6 seconds. There it goes. I don't know why this one's 6 seconds late. This one is not. 10:53 exact time and 20 seconds. Yeah. 10:53 20. Yeah, that's it. Connected to the National Bureau of Standards. That's what Apple does. When they started coming out with their Apple Watch, they want to make sure they know what the hell time of day it is. You can't go up to an Apple guy and say, you don't even know what time of day it is. Because the Apple guy's going to say, oh, yes, I do. It's 10:53. It's there. All right, so we're going to say goodbye for now. I'm going to go. Oh yeah, I have some lo mein. I have a lot of lo mein because I put it all on top of. I made some really high quality spaghetti, and I mixed all that lo mein sauce with some more spaghetti. So lo mein is like a stir fry with all kinds of with the hoisin sauce and soy sauce. May I have some soy sauce, please? Yeah. Anyway, so that way I like doubled the amount of lo mein I got, so that I could have some today and maybe even tonight. I got Marilyn some chicken on a stick, which is really just the way she likes it. And I got my lo mein. And they got some bean sprouts and a few Chinese vegetables, but it's mostly, the soy sauce, hoisin sauce, and the egg noodle, not a rice noodle, egg noodle. It's Friday. It's the 21st. It's the third week in March, for God's sakes. Ooh! We had a super moon this week. All kinds of stuff going on. Took a fast trip up to Annapolis. I got a shirt and a sweatshirt from, what do you call it? The magnificent crab place. Jimmy with a C. Jimmy C's. I don't have the shirt on right now. Yeah. It's a very famous place. All right. Oh, yeah. You want to see? I'll show you. I got a picture of Daniel standing in the front door of the place. See if I can find it fast enough. It would be. Yeah, it should be below this. Yeah. As I'm paging through a million photos. Where is the? I can't say. There it is. Oh yeah, come on. Cantlers. Man, this is. You see that doorway? You see Daniel standing to my left. So I did a copy of the picture and I took away all the wood so you could just see the window. Yeah, Jimmy Cantlers. Open 7 days a week. That's the front door. It actually looked like that. I kind of like digitally diddled with it. It's thermopane. You can see the double reflection on the glass. Jimmy Cantlers. So I got a crew top shirt, long sleeve shirt, and a crew top sweatshirt. There it is. The Annapolis Beer Company. There's the crab claw. Crab claw. Crab claw only. Yeah. I hung the crab claw on my Bloody Mary. There it is. Oh my God, they sprinkle, the seasoning all over. Yeah. And the crabs galore. And they give you hammers and you bang the crabs open. There's the hammers. Everybody gets a new hammer when you buy the big thing of crabs. God knows what that bill was. There's Jimmy. We're toasting. You see, Daniel and I both got Bloody Marys. And Robin's got a glass of wine. Marilyn's, I guess, got a glass of wine also, but it's in a cup. Somehow or other, Robin ended up with a glass of wine. Marilyn's got a to-go cup of wine. I'm pretty sure. Or maybe Marilyn's drinking that beer from the Annapolis Beer Company. You can see the boats in the background there. Brennan stayed home and took care of my cats and his dog. There's the robo litter thing. There's all of us. Yep. Robin, 2 grandchildren. Marilyn, Daddy-O, and Daniel. It was, yep. We're going to say goodbye now. So you all have a good lunch. It's 11 a.m. in 30 seconds. And I'm going to go see if I can have a little lo mein. Warm that up. That's a marvelous little dish. I am a pasta crazy guy, you know. I just, pasta, any kind of pasta, give it to me. I like the crabs too. Cantlers. If you're ever in the Annapolis area, that is a place that's worthy of your attention. Yes, sir. Please go there. You all have a great day. I'm going to stop talking so you can listen at uninterrupted epidemic sound without me interrupting the sound. Hear how nice it is. See you tomorrow.